Hi guys, welcome to the F1 Debate Show. My name is LC,
My name is JT.
and in this episode we're going to be talking about some of the biggest stories, such as some of the tyre compounds for the rest of the season, some of the GP2 drivers getting seats for Friday practice sessions, transfers that have already been confirmed and to be confirmed for the rest of the season for 2017. But the biggest topic that I'm going to start off with is team radio. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, why are you discussing that? Well, from last week's European Grand Prix, there was a few few indications that team radio and the sanctions that are put in by the FIA to what the teams can say to the drivers and vice versa were kind of contradicting and borderlining on the this is really annoying. So we're going to be talking about that. Now, the biggest thing, which a lot of people will know, is that Lewis Hamilton had a problem with his steering wheel. Both Nico and Lewis did as well, but it hit Lewis harder as he was asking the team, how do I get rid of this fault, if you like, on the steering wheel, and the team couldn't tell him. So he was saying, do I do this switch? Do I do that switch? And then the team will go, no, we can't tell you. Around halfway through the race, when Lewis was climbing from 10th place, he asked the team, do I turn this switch off? And they said, we advise you don't. And those words were then interpreted by the FIA after the race to be almost guiding. It's a bit like what JT mentioned this in the review show, where he said that Lewis was investigated by the FIA and Mercedes were investigated for using this. Nothing happened, but that could have been interpreted as the team almost guiding Lewis to don't do that, because they're not telling them not to do it. But they're saying, well, actually, yes, they are. They're saying, we advise that you don't do it, which obviously means that you don't do it. So Lewis had to figure it out on his own, much like Nico did, but obviously Lewis had much more problems with it. And this went on for a good few laps, and if team radio was around that, this could have been avoided. Lewis could have switched the switch off much faster and got on with the race. Another scenario of this was Kimi Raikkonen of Ferrari. Now this was a small thing, but he had around lap 8, something like that, because it's a straight circuit. He had a carrier bag or something like that stuck on his car. He asked the team what it was, and they couldn't tell him. So only us as viewers and then the commentators, knew it was a carrier bag, saying, "Oh, look, there's a carrier bag in Kimi Raikkonen's car," but he didn't know. And then also halfway through the race, he had a problem with, I think it was, again, the floor, like things getting caught under it. He then asked the team what it was, or like how to avoid it. They said, we're sorry, Kimi, we can't tell you. And then he got a bit frustrated on the radio. And then he said, for sure, you can tell me yes or no. Just say, yes, do it, or no, don't do it. And they just said, no, sorry, Kimi, we can't tell you. And as the race engineer told him, obviously you could tell he was getting a bit upset with himself because he wanted to help Kimi, but he knew that he couldn't. The team radio ban in that kind of way was introduced for this season, the end of the 2015 season, heading into this season, and it was to stop teams telling the drivers to do things, for the car. Because it was almost like the teams are driving the cars for the drivers. The drivers were just the ones that sat in the car, looked pretty, got out of the car, drank champagne, and talked to the podium, talked to the podium girls. Because obviously that had happened so many times. If the teams would tell a driver, what clutch setting to be in, where to turn, the different ratios, the dimensions, the peripherals turned into the corner, out of the corner, the fuel load, when to pit, what to do, and that was all scrapped. And the idea with this obviously is because the drivers would become more independent in the car. And it is good for us as viewers because we want to know that the driver is doing as much as he can. But for the driver, when there's a problem like there was in Europe, how much will that kind of affect their performance and their overall race result? So JT, we're going to use Lewis Hamilton as an example, okay? So he finished in 5th place, and the few questions that I'm going to give to you is, would he have finished higher if the team were allowed to tell him what the problem was with his steering wheel or with his car, and to tell him to fix it straight away? Do you think he would have got a higher result?
I think he would have because that problem hindered him for about at least half of the race, you could say. And obviously, you could blatantly tell that he was lacking performance because of it. And obviously, he was trying this and that, and the team, he was like begging for the team to tell him, and he said they were saying no. So obviously, he was fully concentrated on that as well as trying to win the race.
Yeah.
So obviously, he would have been losing seconds here and there trying to figure out this component. If he had have been told straight away, then obviously he would have cracked down, got on with the race, and yes, he definitely would have finished higher. And I mean, in my opinion, that it is ridiculous, if I'm honest with you, the rules. I mean, when we first heard about this, it was great. It was like, right, we're going to see real, proper racing back like we used to see back in the day. But now you have so many buttons and so many electrical components on this car. It's so hard for the driver to do all these, to know everything, and drive and concentrate, to win these races. It is very, very difficult to do that. And when a problem occurs, like what we've seen with Kimi Button and Hamilton and some other drivers, then obviously they don't know what to do, and it's like that, their heads mashed up as well, and they're like, "Come on, guys, I really don't know what to do." They've got all the data on their screens back on the pit wall. So they can see everything, but the drivers can't. The drivers only got a little screen, a little dash telling them like the fuel and everything, what lap they're on, and the revs and stuff like that. And the drivers do need to be told more stuff. Next season, I do hope that they do change this. I hope they don't change it to what it used to be, when the engineers would tell them everything. Do this, do that, warm the tyres up to this temperature, and blah 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 blah. Because obviously that's taking the skill away from the driver. But be more lenient on them. Tell them when a problem occurs. Like they are allowed to, but only when it's critical, up to a point where it's right, something bad's going to happen here. We need to tell them to cool this or to heat this up or whatever. And it shouldn't be like that. It should be like, right, if there's a problem with the car, the driver should tell them. No, I'm lying. The engineer should tell the driver, shall I say? But obviously, in terms of like heating the tyres up going on the grid, of what setup to use, when to start, the driver should know that, because obviously you're sitting there, you're concentrating, you've got nothing to really worry about at that point. So obviously, when the race have got too many things to think about, and obviously, I mean, after all, they're all only human. We're not robots. We can't think of everything at once. You know what I mean? The car's more robotic than us. So, and obviously it is a team game. You can't just let your driver know everything. There has to be communication skills there as well. So it is a big topic in the media right now, and obviously everyone's like, right, we do need change. I hope it does change. If I'm honest with you, it does need to change. Wouldn't you agree, Elsie? Do you think maybe more lenient rules should apply from next season?
Well, what they're doing is that Formula One was very much a team game, more so than the drivers. For example, the constructors was becoming more popular than the drivers. As a Formula One fan, obviously, as a driver, they want to win the drivers' championship, and I think it's just it's given. They want to give more of the control, almost 90% of the control of the car, to the drivers. It's a bit like when they changed the clutch. One of the best changes I think they made in Formula One. After the Belgian Grand Prix, for the Italian Grand Prix, they changed the dual clutches to one clutch, which gave the drivers the control of the whole car, because obviously the teams will be able to tell the drivers to hold both clutches and when to release. You'd have one like you do in a car, and then it was up to the driver to release then. So it's a bit like that. And the team orders, the ban on the team really was brought in so the drivers do all the work. But I do agree with you there. I think that because it is a team game, I don't know why the team aren't involved in it, because there's a lot of sports out there where the athletes or the cars or the machinery out there will listen to the teams. There'll be a lot of team tactics out there. Like for example, like the Tour de France starts in a few weeks. That is a team game. So obviously the director sportif and the team behind them will give the tactics to the riders beforehand, and it's down to them. Obviously they're the ones who ride the bike, obviously, but they will still be listening to the tactics of the team as they progress in the stage. Maybe that's not the greatest example, but as I say, there is sports out there where they keep getting advice from the team, they keep getting guidance of where to go, and I don't think that's different in Formula One in any way. I think so. The old way, where the teams would tell the drivers, what to do on the steering wheel, I think that should go. But I think there still should be a thing where, like in an emergency, like how Lewis was having, the team would intervene and tell the driver what was going on. I don't know why the FIA wouldn't allow that, and then think, well, hang on a minute, if he doesn't know what switch to turn off, he could have retired I mean, he would have, that would have
Exactly.
been inevitable. Lewis took it on himself because obviously he's a driver, he's a racing driver, he's been in the game for almost a decade. From his skill and his knowledge of the car, he turned it off himself. Also, like Rosberg, Rosberg did it before him, so he'll feel good about that. So obviously Lewis took it on himself, but if he didn't, so if he was a newer driver and he didn't know what was going on, say for example if this happened to like Pascal at Manor, this could have been a retirement. And obviously we know how crucial it is for those to stay in the race, and I think it's very harsh by the FIA. So the things that need to change, I think, we agree. We say that the FIA need to become more lenient, and let the teams intervene more with the drivers. Obviously, still letting them have control of the car, still having control of like the tyres and things like that. But I still think the team should intervene in terms of strategy and things like that. The biggest thing, JT, just the last thing to talk about on this last thing is obviously pit stops. Which I'll let you give your view first. Because obviously in the olden days, last year, the teams were allowed to tell the drivers when to box. Obviously, they'd say box, box, box on the radio. They would come into the pit lane, teams would do their stuff, and then they would leave. Now I think it's almost a guessing game between the drivers and the teams, and it's almost the drivers guessing. Are the teams on the same page as me and vice versa?
Yeah.
So, what do you think about that? Do you think it's good that the drivers make their own decisions when to box, or do you think it's up to the teams and the teams should be able to tell the driver when they should box?
In that favour, I think it's better that the drivers know when to box, because there has been, events in the past. For example, one I remember very clearly was Australia 2010, where Lewis Hamilton, he had gone from the intermediates to the softs.
Yeah.
And he was driving. It was really good race. He was catching the drivers. He was, I think, it was Red Bull's leading at the time, and Jensen Button not far in front of him, I believe. So he was catching them. He was doing really well. And then he got told to box again. And he was like, "My tyres were totally fine. Why did he box us?" It was like, "Oh, it was a strategy game. Other drivers were doing it." It was like, "But my tyres were fine." And there has been loads of more events that have happened like that. So again, it's got that the drivers. He can feel the tyres. He can see the tyres.
Yeah.
He knows when they're degrading. When that phase is happening, they're like, "Right, guys, we need to box now. My tyres are absolutely wrecked." And obviously, a bit like that. When the drivers are saying, like mostly Sebastian Vettel, I remember in his Red Bull days when he was saying, like, "Rocky, these tyres are absolutely like they're screwed. Basically, we need to box." And he's like, "Sorry, Martin needs to box next. We've got 2 laps before our window." And he's like, "I'm going to be losing places." And so at least that way, in that sense, it is good, I believe. Yes, I would say I agree with the with the fact that the drivers can have more say in terms of pit stops.
Yeah.
What more can I say about that? If I'm honest with you, but one of the things that something else that we are going to move on to, obviously we are in round 9, so obviously about now we are going to talk about a lot more about 2017. I would say it is pretty early to be talking about stuff, but there has been a little bit of stories occurring this up to this point this season about 2017, and one of them I want to talk about is next year's calendar. Now, normally about Malaysia, Japan, around that point that I think the FIA normally release a provisional calendar for next season. So obviously you're probably thinking, well, hang on, JT, why are you mentioning this now when we're coming to Austria? So we are pretty a long shot away from then. Exactly. So you're like, well, come on, JT, what's going on? Think about it. Well, here's why. Because Bernie Ecclestone basically was having an interview with some Russian media, a Russian sports channel, I believe, about the possibility of dropping 2 European races, and he did say a couple of years ago that he wanted less European races. And basically, he said that it's not the F1 European Championship, it's the F1 World Championship, which obviously, yes, he's right. But the roots from Formula 1 occurred in Europe. So I think a lot of the races should be in Europe.
Yeah.
But the reason why he's going about this business about dropping some races was because of money. Obviously, we've heard the Nürburgring are in massive financial trouble right now. They were dropped from last year's calendar. They're back this year. I believe that's going to be one of the races that will be dropped. Another one, unfortunately, I think will be the Italian Grand Prix because, again, more financial worries. And one of the media people from that Russian interview or Russian TV company, whatever it was, they asked Bernie Ecclestone, right, you've got Azerbaijan on the calendar, what can they do to make themselves present still in Formula 1? Because we've seen tracks like India, Turkey, Korea, who just came in for like 3 to 4 seasons and then left.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, hang on a second, you brought them in because of the, because he said, oh, it's good for the country, for culture,
Yeah.
it's something new for Formula One. He said, well, hang on, they've came and gone. So what if Azerbaijan were to do that, like, how would they stop that? And he said, pay. That's all he said, basically.
Yeah.
Which, yes, he's right, but it is a bit of a shame that like all these classical circuits, such as like Italy, Belgium, possibly as well, could be all going from the calendar because of money. And it's like these circuits, them 4 circuits, the big four, like Silverstone, Belgium, Monaco, and Italy,
Yeah.
they should all remain on the calendar regardless because that's where Formula One started.
Formula One, yeah.
They were on the very first calendar. You know what I mean? I mean, they have been dropped a few times here and there because of improvement changes and everything like that. But they've been there since day one.
Yeah.
So why change it? You know what I mean? I mean, such as races who have established themselves as like classic races, such as Malaysia, Japan, Australia, obviously. So again, tracks who weren't on the calendar, but when we go there, there is that sense of history. Canada, there's another one. So obviously he wants to drop it to a 21 calendar, to an 18 race calendar, which for us fans it's bad because we're not seeing enough races. But for engineer wise, it's good because now they've got, I mean, for example, we're coming up to July soon. There's 4 races in July, so again, the teams have got a lot of taking stuff down, packing up, going over there, getting up, working constantly. Honestly, they'll be non-stop this season, so for them, it'll be very, very stressful, and a lot of teams will have capitalised from that as well. So that for them, it's good, but for us, it's bad. So, I mean, what's your opinion on this, Elsie? I mean, obviously, 1 or 2 European races. Could be leaving the calendar for next season. Which ones do you think would be? And obviously, what's your opinion on all this?
Well, it's very sad to see races going. Now, the first thing that you mentioned was that classic races like Italy and maybe Belgium will be going.
Yeah,
and I do fully 100% agree with you there. So the 4 big races in Europe, like the established old races, should remain. It is money as well, and that's what Bernie's trying to balance. It's that all like the old heritage of Formula One, for example, like I was gonna say Monza. Well, yeah, Monza if you like, but obviously they're missing the Curva Grande. Like Belgium, obviously that's an old circuit. Monaco and Silverstone, obviously being the very first Formula One event in 1950, televised. With obviously newer circuits in Europe, like obviously the rejuvenated Red Bull Ring in Austria, Catalonia if you like, things like that. It's hard to say which one would go. It's judging. The second thing, the thing that you mentioned before that, which is quite good to think about, is that the European Grand Prix, that there's too many races in Europe, and I do kind of agree there because obviously it is a world sport. Formula One is a world sport, and there's other continents in the world. Obviously you've got Asia, obviously Australia and North and South America, and there is races in there, but I think there should be, maybe more of those and balancing it out. Mm-hmm. I don't think it'll ever drop below 20. And that's, do you know what I'm going to say? That I'm going to guarantee that in my opinion, I think it won't drop below 20 just because there's so much hype for Formula One now than there was even a few years ago. Obviously, when there was like 15, 16, 17 races on the calendar. So it's growing every single year. And I think from about 2012, it's on the race reviews, they've always said longer season in Formula One, longer season in Formula One, longer season in Formula One. So it's always going to keep growing. Yeah. It might even be up to like 25 soon. What I mean is by that is even if there might be cuts, there's so much hype for Formula One, countries will pay to get the tracks and things like that up, and have ones more around the world. Obviously, I miss things like the Pacific Grand Prix. They should have an Asian Grand Prix. I put that on the channel quite a few months ago. I said something like, we have the European Grand Prix. What about an Asian Grand Prix or Pacific Grand Prix? Yeah. And just more races around the world. Obviously, it'd be great to see that. There is so much hype for the European Grand Prix, and obviously where me and JT are in Europe, obviously it's in our time zone, we're in that continent. But for people who live in Australia or live in America and in Asia and places like that, well, won't they miss it? Because then they'll think, well, hang on a minute, for Australia as an example, we only have, obviously we have the Australian Grand Prix, which is in our continent, and then after that, the races is, everything obviously to them is in the east, and then Formula One just takes off, we never see it again. The next time we see it is 1 year later in March. A bit like in Asia as well, there's only a few races like China and Russia if you like, and then obviously Japan, Malaysia, and there's just a few dotted around. It'd be great to see it all around the world again, like more races in Asia, obviously bring back the old circuits like Fuji. I'd like quite to see India back, just work in the old ones and the new ones as well. I don't think it will become an in-race calendar, as you say, but
Yeah.
just more races around the world.
Exactly.
If you like money so much, Bernie, then yeah, just I think countries will be willing to pay. In terms of races being dropped though from Europe, in my predictions, I'm gonna say the Spanish Grand Prix in Catalonia. I think that'll be gone. The Unfortunately, I mean, I know it's a country that has a big heritage with has a big history with motorsport, but I'm going to say the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, or obviously this year it's in Hockenheim and it has been for many years, but I think Germany will be dropped. And then after that, in Europe, possibly Austria. I'm just thinking of the races where I don't think there's too much demand for them.
Yeah.
I mean, as you said, JT, and I can't get this out of my head. You said the 4 classical races, obviously, and the 4 popular ones as well. You have Silverstone, Monaco. Obviously, Monaco. If that went, I think that's the race that if that went, people would just leave Formula One. It's almost
Pretty
like
much,
we're not watching it anymore. I don't think I could have a season without Monaco.
Exactly.
And obviously,
so
like
unthinkable.
Spa and Monza, they're the classic one, and obviously they're great to go to. Just as you said that, obviously, me and JT, we're thinking of going to Monza next year as well, so I'll see that going. And yeah, so that would be great. They're already to use Heineken as well, obviously this season, next season, so Heineken won't want them to drop out. But yeah, as I said, JT, the biggest thing in this conversation is money. If the countries haven't got the money, they're going to have a massive. They could have a massive audience, they can have everything, but if they don't have the money, they're out. And that's what's happened to countries like South Korea, India. I mean, India had, using them as a big example, obviously their circuit that they built was massive. Obviously, that was a massive construction in that country. They spent so much making that track, clean and just everything. I mean, like the main grandstand, obviously, is like all metal, 3 tiers, I think it was. Just lovely. Longest straight in Formula One, obviously, just very, just amazing. A massive thing. And then, yeah, we saw that for 3 years, and then that was it. It was gone. South Korea, that was the same. And yeah, there's been other circuits in the world, obviously, like for example, like in America, the one, I forgot what it was, I think it was just called the US Grand Prix, the one that used the NASCAR track. Again, that was like was a purposely built Formula One of circuit, obviously within the NASCAR ring or whatever you call it, and then that's gone. And so it is a shame that money's taken over Formula One. There's more. It's a bit like what Ayrton Senna said. Formula One is political. It's money, and he doesn't like that.
Exactly.
So technically, he was, his obviously Ayrton Senna's premonition is coming true. It's politics and money's in Formula One, and that's what's ruining the sport. Well, I mean, in terms of tracks staying in anyway, because as I say, if Monza left, as JT said, that's everything. That is it. I mean, Italy has a massive heritage of Formula One. Obviously, you have the Tifosi for obviously Scuderia Ferrari, then Scuderia Toro Rosso. There's so many fans and so much support coming from Italy. And one of the biggest races and one of the oldest races. I mean, they might not use the Curva Grande, but they still use the main track. Some of the parts of the main track, like the Parabolica, that was used in the old in the olden days.
Yeah.
And if that went, then that's just a clear indication that money is taking over Formula One, which obviously isn't great to see. But yep. Anyway, so that's me. I think it won't dip below 20. I think there's more demand for more races around the world, and that's what he needs to do. Maybe even take a few races out of Europe and then put them in the world. That would be great to see. I'd love to see, for example, like in a Pacific Grand Prix. The Pacific Grand Prix in South Africa was a fantastic event, which was used in the late 70s and early 80s and things like that. And that was one of my favourite races. I'd love to see that back. Obviously, South Africa. We don't even go into the continent of Africa. That would be great to see.
Exactly.
So yeah, more tracks around the world would be great to see. But if money's a problem, then I don't know. How do you get around that?
Exactly. Pay. That's basically it. If I'm honest with you, Bernie's basically he's strict and he's like, right, if you can't pay, we're not go. Can't pay, can't race. Basically, then that is a very disappointing thing because it's like, we want to see these legendary. We want to see loads of circuits return.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think these new circuits now. I don't think that they'll be established. I don't think you can't make a classical race anymore because again, money such as we said, Turkey. Like Korea and stuff like those, them circuits just come and go. They, haven't established themselves. You're not going to remember them. Well, you will remember them, but obviously,
remember Turkey for one reason only.
Red Bull, obviously, you know what I mean. But obviously, that one day when someone goes Turkey 2010, what's everyone ranting and raving about? Then we know that there's something really, really wrong. But anyway, so yeah, from that topic. Transfers is
Yes.
another silly season that LC kindly did an episode for when I was absent, which was absolutely fantastic of them. We did, we did obviously Travis transfers there. We're going to talk about a little bit more about that because more news has emerged. And one of the things I'm going to kick off this little segment for is Sergio Perez, who right now is in a fine form at Air Force India. You know, he's a rejuvenated Sauber driver that we've seen in 2012, who everyone was tipping, right, this kid is going to be the next big thing. And unfortunately, he went to McLaren, and that really did not work out for him.
No.
McLaren, being McLaren, unfortunately dropped him. And I was really good to see because it's like you never gave him a chance, if I'm honest with you. You gave him a bad car, and that was
Yeah.
pretty much where McLaren's problems started up to this day. And again, they just dropped him straight away, brought in their reserve driver, and Perez was like, that's my chance gone. But Perez, being Mexican, he never gives up. And there is big talk of him moving to Ferrari next season. Now, Ferrari have, they've said that they have shown interest, but that's the furthest that they've ever gotten. Whether they'll be in contact with Force India about it at some point, but news has emerged this week about apparently a very healthy, wealthy, shall I say, investor who would say that he would actually pay Ferrari to get to obviously give Sergio Perez to Ferrari.
Yeah.
And obviously, not only that, if that does happen, then Force India will get some money from Ferrari for Sergio Perez. And again, that's something that they need because although they don't look like a team in financial trouble, they actually are alongside Toro Rosso, Renault, and Sauber. Their midfield teams are quite like, we need some money and we need it fast. So selling a driver like Sergio Perez would be good for them financially, but also it will be a big risk again for Sergio Perez to go to another team and maybe potentially try. And I believe he will succeed at Ferrari, unlike McLaren, because McLaren dropped like a bag of stones, as I always say. Ferrari won't do the same to that. I mean, those two Sergio Perez alongside Sebastian Vettel. Also, Sergio Perez is getting on a little bit. I don't know how old he is. I think he's about in his late 20s, I believe.
Yeah.
So obviously there is enough time, but obviously not enough time to make himself a name in Formula One because you've got loads of young guns coming through.
Yeah.
And as we have been saying, Ferrari have got a young drivers academy which they rarely use. They just tend to sell their drivers elsewhere. Unlike Red Bull,
but every team bar Ferrari, you'll use them.
exactly. So it's like, well, why did it set up in the first place then? So that's a bit pointless. So again, they might try to use that. I really don't know. So,
Yeah.
I'll say Sergio Perez to Ferrari. Is that possible? Do you think?
Yes.
Do you think that will happen?
Yes, that would be great. Monaco, we saw Checo doing very well. The old one, the old Checo that we saw in 2012, obviously with alongside Kamui, his amazing performances. For example, like Malaysia 2012, which is one of my favourite races. See, a second place by Sergio Perez. Remember, he was leading the race as well at one point.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. So Monaco was like that, and then you thought, well, hang on a minute, people are rushing into Checo going to Ferrari after Monaco, and then you think, well, no, not really. He's had 1 second place this season, come on. But then obviously his amazing performance in Europe, in Canada also shown progression, and then in Europe though just unbelievable. And yeah, I would like to see that happen. Obviously, firstly, it's got to be Kimi's out. I don't think Ferrari would kick Kimi out. If I don't think they want. If Checo starts winning races this season, I think that's when it'll change. But at the moment, I think they'll still. If Kimi wants to stay next year, they'll let him. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I'd like to see Sergio at Ferrari. That would be great to see. Obviously, the second the original Mexican on the grid, bringing a lot of backing in. Obviously, as you say, with his investment to go up to Ferrari would be great, and I would love to see him there. It frees up another space also at Force India, for new drivers to come into. Obviously, Force India is a progression team. Nico Hulkenberg won't want to hear that. But,
no, definitely not.
But yeah, it's a progression team, so I think that would be great. And I could definitely see him alongside Seb in red overalls at the front of the grid for next season, yeah?
That would be very, very interesting to see. And obviously, I think if Nico Hulkenberg were to leave, which I believe, I've got a funny feeling he will, I think he'll go into endurance racing. I can't see him moving elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he's a very talented driver. He should have had his chance a long time ago. I believe that his chance is now gone, if I'm honest with you. So I believe that might kick in and eventually he might go into endurance.
I know what you mean. I mean, he kind of has a spark of Mark Webber, I think, in him.
Yeah.
He's a great driver, and I just love seeing him out there fighting. But yeah, he's getting on, and also, I mean, Mark Webber, I think even very quickly, I mean, there's probably indications of around 2011 when, obviously, because his best chance to win the championship was 2010. When he didn't do it, he started kind of, putting his tentacles out there to find other sorts of driving, and he was having a lot of testers for Porsche whilst he was driving in with Red Bull. I think that's what Nico was doing. Obviously, he won Le Mans last year with Porsche. I mean, that's a record achievement. He was in a full Formula One season and won Le Mans. I mean, I don't think that's ever been done before, or very rarely been done. Obviously, drivers have gone on to win other events. For example, like Jim Clark and a lot of other drivers in the olden days have won other events. But obviously, a 24-hour event by a Formula One driver is just unbelievable. But yeah, Nico going to Porsche or going into yes, it probably would be Porsche. Obviously, his old team. Going into Porsche next year, I'd cry. I'd be a bit upset because obviously I like Nico in Formula One, but I could see that happening. And also, just the last thing to mention about the driver transfers. Obviously, nothing's been said yet, but there has been talk of this one driver possibly going to Williams. And I just want to say, can you guess who it is yet out there? Because I mentioned him in episode 15. It's Jenson Button. And I hold my hand up to God, I did not read that anywhere. I just said it out there. I just said Jenson is going to go to Williams. Just, he'll be there. And then he might be anyway. Obviously, but it's only talks at the moment. JT, would you... Obviously, Jenson's options are numbered. Staying with McLaren is very low on that option.
Yeah.
And then his other two are probably either sabbatical... let's say three options. Obviously, sabbatical, take a year out, and then obviously try and get back into Formula One for the 2018 season. Retire for good and seek other things, or go to another team. And if Williams are the most popular one, that want him back, would you like to see Jenson at Williams?
I would like to see him in Formula One. Obviously, I would imagine that they would be dropping Felipe Massa from Williams to make place for Jenson Button.
Yeah.
And obviously, I would imagine Stoffel would fill Jenson Button's seat. But Jenson Button has said that he just wants to enjoy 2017 in Formula One.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I mean, the past 2 or 3 seasons it just hasn't gone his way. Obviously, for a number of reasons. But he's a true racer. He's passionate, and he's just stuck with McLaren. And obviously, he's become I would say a McLaren legend, not only a Formula One legend.
He's a legend, yeah.
But a McLaren legend, and I would love to see him in Formula One at McLaren, preferably in 2017.
Yeah.
But if that's not the case, I would love to see him at Williams. I would love to see what he can do there. I just hope that eventually that they can have not a title winning car, a race winning car, because McLaren can't provide that.
Yeah.
And obviously, when about this time last season, or a bit later stage in last season, he was basically saying that he likes the new rules coming in for 2017, how the cars look different. Yeah. Obviously, the tyres being thicker, the rear spoilers being lower, and it looks really, really sporty. And he said that he would love to be part of that.
I feel like it's like a throwback. I feel like it's Formula One's reverting like the shape of the cars back to the 80s and 90s, even earlier, if you like. Exactly.
So he wants to be part of that. And obviously, I think about 2014, I would say that this will happen every year. If Jenson Button says, if he goes to Williams, then by this stage next season, it'll be like, well, Jenson Button retired 2000. You know what I mean? So it is coming, definitely. I don't know when. I think that how I can see this coming out is that Massa will leave, Button will go to Williams. I believe that is actually, I would say it's nearly done, if I'm honest with you, because obviously they don't want to announce everything too much yet. McLaren said that they want to sort out their drivers for 2017 in September.
Yeah.
So obviously that must mean that maybe that they have some sort of plan going ahead. The stuff will sign for next season, and we're just waiting for, or maybe perhaps Button has signed for Williams, but they're just trying to keep it hush to announce McLaren's driver, or vice versa. You know what I mean? So I believe that this is a lot forward than what we think it is. So how I say it is that Button will go to Williams. He'll have one season at Williams, have a really good season, and then he'll leave, and he'll probably go to. He said that last season he wanted to go into Rallycross, which he did with DC and a BBC F1 segment, which was really fun to see. Really enjoyed it, and he said that I would love to do that for a career. In terms of endurance racing, like what Hulkenberg wants to do, what Webber's doing, he might go to that. I mean, in 2014, I think, when they announced Alonso. And Button was right. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? I think Mark Webber tweeted him saying that, like, just come on, mate, just sign that deal. So obviously there was talks of that maybe had been offered a deal. So obviously he would have turned that down. So we really don't know with Jenson Button. He's the kind of driver that anywhere he goes, he'll be happy. But in my opinion, I would love to see him at Williams next.
The last thing to mention about Jenson though at JT is his easiest option, McLaren. The Sainz Fernando Why don't they sign
Yeah.
Jensen? Does that mean McLaren don't want him?
I mean, who knows? I mean, if I'm honest with you, if they sign Fernando, then that means they definitely should want Jensen Button. He's been a lot of servant for all them years. He's been through the hardest times.
He has.
You know what I mean? We've seen drivers come and go. Jensen is stuck there from the close championship title winning, nearly title winning years to now racing alongside the likes of Manor, Sauber, and stuff like that, challenging with them. So that just proves how loyal he is, and I believe that McLaren shouldn't really dislike him for that.
Yeah.
To be fair, it is McLaren's fault that Jensen hasn't got the car.
Yeah.
People are saying, "Oh, Jensen's rusty" and stuff. It's like, no, he's not. Put him in Mercedes, he can win that championship, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah.
He'll beat Lewis. He'll put Lewis in his place.
Yeah.
A bit like what he tried to do at McLaren. Obviously, it didn't work in some occasions, but he will. He's got that experience.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on, McLaren, give him one more year.
Yeah.
Come on, Jensen, if you're watching this, one, subscribe. Two, have another year. Don't take a year out. Come on.
I'm
have
sure
another
he has
go,
subscribed
please.
already.
I don't intend to put in a go.
Formula 1 wouldn't be the same without Jensen.
I mean, the last veteran after him is probably Alonso. I mean, Alonso, Kimi, and Massa are probably the last veterans. Once they go, it's like now our generation is the big guns now, like the likes of Vettel, Hamilton, Rosberg. Like they're at the top now.
And
so
also,
it's like,
JT, he's unbelievably British. He's a British driver, obviously from down south, where everyone thinks all British people are from, obviously London around that.
Drink tea. Trust me, we're not.
Try
to live my way
like Downton Abbey. And obviously McLaren team, British team. It's been a British team for almost his whole career, hasn't it? It's been amazing, really. He's stuck with that British theme, British management, even if the origins of the team are somewhere else, obviously like Honda. But anyway, so that's the end of that. Just a few more things to mention before we come off air is that a driver from GP3 cars, Charles Lerlach, will be driving Friday practice sessions with Haas. That will be in Hungary, Germany, Malaysia, Abu Dhabi, and more importantly, Silverstone, which means me and JT will see him in the Haas car. Which is great, and also as well, just one of the biggest points where I mentioned it is that he is from the Ferrari Academy, much like Esteban Gutierrez was. Obviously, remember Esteban was in the academy, and also he was the test driver, and it just shows Haas's relationship with Ferrari, obviously Ferrari engine, all that. So that would be great to see, especially getting him in the car before the in-season testing, when you never know. Haas, obviously, no team has confirmed who will be driving their in-season cars. Yeah. But as you know, there's a lot of GP2 and GP3 and other Formula drivers come in to drive the cars, so we could see him in. On that topic, though, we will obviously be bringing you more information of the drivers who will be driving the cars on the days of Silverstone, when obviously they're around. And the last thing to mention is the tyre compounds that have been confirmed. So we have quite a few that Belgium and Japan have just been confirmed. So for Belgium, the super soft tyre will be used along with the soft and the medium tyre, and Japan will be using the hard, medium and soft tyre. The ultra soft tyre is used in Austria, as you will know. It's gone down as a storm, but the next time we will see that, as it takes a gap, 4 races, the next time we will see that is in Singapore in September, which the ultra soft tyre will be used alongside the super soft tyre and the soft tyre. Anyway, so that's just the tyres for you guys. So thank you for watching this video. On the channel next week, obviously please stay tuned for our Austrian Grand Prix preview, which will be coming out on the Thursday. Also, the F1 Debate Show episode, is it 20, JT? 20, wow. 20 on the Saturday, which will be the last F1 Debate Show that is recorded in split screen format.
Exactly.
And then the Sunday, which is the review of the Austrian Grand Prix, which will be thrilling. Actually, no, it won't be, JT, because are we excited for Austria?
No,
of course not.
We want that. We don't care about Austria.
No,
we don't care about Austria. We want Silverstone.
I know.
Oh yeah, and don't forget. If you have not seen our announcement on our Facebook page, if you haven't, go over and like it straight away, please. We are having our annual F1 British Week. Now, what we mean by that is from Sunday the 3rd of July till Sunday the 10th of July, we're going to have a video every single day. So obviously from the Austrian Grand Prix, we'll have our review. But after that, we'll have a video based upon the British Grand Prix. Every single day of the British Grand Prix theme. Yep. Also with our F1 Debate Show on the Saturday, our preview on the Thursday, our review on the Sunday from Silverstone. We'll also do some little segments from Silverstone, obviously, as well. which will be absolutely fantastic as well. And obviously some other themed races. I might even do an F1 2015 British Grand Prix race just for you
Yes,
guys. Not
please
so
do.
a little bit of update on my F1 2015 video. It is ready. It will be uploaded later on tonight, by the way, so don't forget to catch that as well. For a brand new episode, I will be doing the Brazilian Grand Prix with, again, my Sebastian Vettel career, so don't forget to check that out. But yes, guys, thank you very much for watching. Like and subscribe
Yes,
as
of
well.
course.
Appreciate everything. 105 subscribers.
And tell your friends.
Wow, 105 subscribers.
Oh, and I've also got some other news. We, as you know, we are going to Silverstone on the Thursday night for the pit lane. We'll also
Yes.
be in the audience of the F1 show. Of the F1,
Oh, yes. So look
the
out
F1,
for us.
F1
Look
show
out for us.
on Sky
Look out
Sports
for us.
F1. So we'll be in the background. We're holding a big banner that says F1 Debate Show.
Please subscribe.
So thank you for watching this episode, guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
See you later, guys.